the underground. I'm your host, Adam Beckley, where each episode, we're on episode 2. Every episode we're going to be covering a different technique. Today we're going to be covering breakfalls. If you are one of my students that train with me in person, please subscribe, as I'm going to be adding more videos in this series. So if you happen to be stuck at home, can't make it to class, because you're either sick, or have to quarantine, or bad weather, or any kind of other unnatural things that are out of our control that happen, this is for you. If you're out there and you're not one of my students and you're in a situation where you don't have the resources to access a gym, but you do want to train, or you're stuck at home, welcome. I hope that you do get something out of this. Feel free to check out my first episode to go in a little bit more detail why I'm doing this as part of an introduction. So, episode 2, we're going to be covering breakfalls. We're going to be covering 3 different types of breakfalls. Now, you might wonder, what's a breakfall? Some of you that are brand new to this. Well, believe it or not, there's actually an art of falling and hitting the ground. Alright? When practicing this, I'd recommend don't do this on concrete when we're drilling, and don't do this on a hardwood floor when we're drilling. I'm doing this on a puzzle mat that's probably about 3/4 of an inch. Underneath is like a vapor barrier dirt floor. As you can see, I kind of have like a clean space here. If you don't have that, grass, park, that works fine. If you don't really want to get super dirty, because you really know what might be in that grass, especially if it's in like a public park. You could also use a tarp to kind of help weigh that down, to help with rolling and such. That's what I'd recommend for those, for as far as materials. So, but if you're in your house, if you got carpet, if you have a rug, or a tarp for outside, that'll work for this. So, with break falling, there's an art to falling and hitting the ground properly. I believe everyone should know how to break fall. Even if you don't train in the martial arts, even if you don't train in jiu-jitsu, you should learn how to properly fall. So, you might wonder, well, what's the incorrect way of falling? Oftentimes when we fall, and I'll act this out the best way I can, it's hard for me to fall unnaturally at this point, because I've done this so much. We're standing, we trip and fall, we get bumped. What happens? I'll go slow-mo on this. We end up falling, and then we put out our hand to stop ourselves. See what I did here in my wrist? Now, that's all my weight, about 220 pounds right now. It's just gone into my wrist. Now what do you think is going to happen? I'm either going to have a really bad sprain, or, worse, I'm going to break my wrist. And that's not good. But I don't want to shame you for doing this if you have done this in the past. Because naturally we want to do this. Why? Because the alternative would be smashing our head. That's why we put our hand out. Because we want to protect our head. Our head's got a lot of vital senses that we need. We need to be able to hear, we need to be able to see, we need to be able to speak, we need to be able to think. And a concussion is way worse. So we put out our hand to kind of help stop us, because, well, we might end up fracturing our wrists better than a concussion, which in fact, yes, it can be. But I'm going to give you an alternative where you can save your wrist as well as your head. I'm going to learn how to do a break fall. So, 3 different types, we're going to cover over them. First things first, when we get warmed up for break falls, is how we condition our body to meet the ground. Oftentimes we get really stiff and really tense. And that's the first mistake you make. You have to be relaxed. You have to kind of roll with it. So you want to imagine yourself like a yoga ball, a tumbleweed, an armadillo. We're going to work on rounding our back a little bit. So I get sideways here just like so. So you can see me on camera here. I'm going to hug my knees. I'm going to tuck my chin in my chest. For 2 out of these 3 different types of break falls, we always want to tuck our chin to our chest because we want to protect the back of our head. Otherwise, if I don't and I fall back, bonk, I smash my head off the mat. Also makes it hard for me to get back up by flattening myself out like that, right? So this is going to require a little bit of core strength, and we're going to practice it. I'm going to roll my shoulders forward, okay, and I tuck my chin. And notice what I'm doing with my back here. And we're rounding out the spine. And keeping this nice and tight, I'm going to roll back, come back up. And you'll feel this in the core. And you can practice this. And do the best you can with it. Kind of use momentum, rocking back and forth. Going along your spine, keeping it nice and round. You shouldn't have any feeling of like clunks, where it's like boom, boom. That means your spine is not rounded out enough. You want it to be nice and smooth. One smooth transition. All right. Now once you have that down, yeah, your back's probably going to ache a little bit. It's okay. But if it starts to really, really hurt, stop. Always listen to your body. There's a fine line between, oh, it's aching because it's getting stronger, or it's getting a little bit of a workout, to, ow, this really, really hurts, I need to stop now. Okay? So, keeping the chin tucked. Now what I'm going to do is when I come back, roll back, and when I hit my shoulder blades, palm down, slapping the ground. Okay? Do a front view. Here, hug, tuck chin. And when I make contact with the ground and I slap the mat, I breathe. I exhale. And that has a ton of different purposes for a ton of different examples going through on this. So when I slap, I break the fall, so to speak. Normally when we fall, we end up having a focus point when we smash. Like say if I smash here, my elbow, everything is focused on that elbow. Kind of goes in, and that's what causes the damage. Just like if you've ever fallen on your back and knocked the wind out of your back because it was all focused in one point. By doing the break fall, I disperse the impact and it goes outward. And you're going to notice that your palms are going to feel tingly. Make sure you're slapping palm down. If you go palm up, it doesn't have the same effect. The palm has a little bit of a concave to it, so when you slap, it causes it to break outward. I do it at a 45. When I come back, this is too low. All right? This is too high. Has to be kind of in the middle. I always think like a 45, right in between. Rounding my back, coming back up. All right? That's type number 1. You would just practice that. Do a couple. And for a while, that might be the best that you can do as far as for that level. But if you're like, I need to do a little bit more, you can come up in what's called combat base. We're going to be revisiting combat base a couple different times. I tuck my leg back and behind, keeping my back round, shoulder blades round. Coming up back again. Side view. Don't have your leg straight like this, because then you're going to fall back on your ankle. You're going to do a lot of damage. You're going to blow it out. You're going to do damage on your knee too. Bring your foot in. When you bring your foot in like so, it gets your ankle out of the way. Makes it so that this can connect, then to your butt, then to your back. We're making a gradual connection where we're moving it up and transferring the fall of impact out. That's a trick to doing a break fall properly. It's to start it at a certain point where we're killing the momentum a little bit. And there might be a point when you do something from up high, like some of you judo players doing hip throws on each other, smashing each other on the ground. That we're going to have to do a little bit more force on slapping and make sure that we exhale properly. You might even have to go, huh! All right, some of my karate guys know what I'm talking about. If you don't exhale properly and tense at the right moment, you're gonna end up losing wind. You're gonna get the wind knocked out of you. Especially if you get thrown in, say, like Koshinagi, and the guy that does the throw falls right on top of you. Like, for instance, use our grappling dummy here, best way possible. If they're like this, throwing, boom, and then they fall right on top. Some of you seen that. I'm sure a ton of times. You judo guys know what I'm talking about. It's not fun for the guy on the bottom. Because I don't know how much you might weigh, especially if you're a big boy. You're coming right down on top of somebody. He's going to have to make sure that he breakfalls, exhales, to tighten his body. So that way he doesn't get damaged even more so. Which is going to lead us to our next type of breakfall. Side breakfall. Which is common for the hip throw. Because we're going to be kind of on someone's side, coming down on the side. We're not going to be coming down flat, straight back. So how does that go? Same concept. I keep myself hugged in, keeping this nice and round. I'm going to go to the side, chin is tucked, and come back up. And then I do the other side. You can also use this leg too. Come back up. So the legs and hands kind of have to go together. I go to the side, back up. Because before we had both our hands and we went straight back, right? But rather than just having the one hand, we can use the impact and spread it out. So rather than having it being focused here on our floating ribs, we can break fall and have the impact go out this way. So yes, you're going to feel contact all through here, going right up your side. You're going to feel it right along through here too in the hand. Come back up. And think like you're holding a yoga ball. To the side, tuck the chin. Coming back up. Eventually, as you get more comfortable with it, and this is, you're feeling good with your core, eventually you can stand it up. Here, like you're getting your leg taken out, right? But notice, it started from the pinky toe, went all the way up the leg. One more time. Here, keeping the chin tucked. The great thing about these breakfalls, besides being able to use them on the street, if you slip on ice, when we're working throws on each other, we can breakfall properly and then be able to get back up and keep training. Versus taking the hard bumps and only being able to do like 3 or 4, and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, man, I'm done, I can't do anymore. We can get more reps in. So this also works great if you happen to be someone's uke for, you know, these hip throws or takedowns. So, the final type of breakfall, and this one I find to be the trickiest one, is the front breakfall. And I usually do this kind of from a kneeling position. Doing it from standing, it's kind of strange to me because if I'm falling forward, oftentimes I would just roll. So if I end up having to fall forward, I would try to kind of roll to it. But you might not have that opportunity to be able to do the roll. So this one's where it kind of breaks the rule a little bit on. With the other two, you always want to tuck your chin. But because we're falling forward, we don't want to tuck our chin because otherwise our head's going to bounce off the ground. So we got to tilt our head back. Always tilt your head away from the fall. I like to tilt my head back and tilt my head to the side. So that way my nose and chin are safe too. So basically the full form version of it I come up tall, high, my arms up, and I just drop. And I'm making impact with my palms, forearms to my elbows. Now, that's a pretty disorienting fall to do. When I started doing that, I was like, I'm not comfortable even doing that from kneeling position. It feels so wrong. Because you want to do this constantly. But again, we don't want to sprain our wrists. We want to break, fall, and bring the impact out. So what you can do for starters, and I've done this with the kids, is I'll come here, kind of like if I'm in a turtle position. Here, just like so. And I just come up and get that feel. Come up. And just get the feel of making that impact with my forearm and palm at the same time. Not palm, forearm. Forearm and palm at the same time. And then eventually work my way up a little higher. And always exhale. Side view. Side view would be this. Don't just pick up your arms and do it. Your whole core come up. And then you can get up as you get more comfortable. You come up higher. All right. And that concludes our lesson for today. Thank you so much for coming on. Work those break falls. As you get more comfortable, start up higher. If you learn nothing else in jiu-jitsu and martial arts, break fall is so important. I feel like everyone should know how to properly break fall. Yes, your palms are going to sting, but it's better than having to sit in the ER room for 4 or 5 hours and then have to have a cast. And yeah, it's just a mess. The stinging palms are definitely a much better alternative. So, thank you all. I hope to see you next time. Take care.